before was called Dish to Fish, Eliminating Cultural Tourism. We are still talking about that, don't worry. However, in the development and the progress of this session, we actually came to the realization that in order for you not to feel like a tourist, you actually have to feel like a part of something or a part of a community. So we actually know the answer to what it means to eliminate cultural tourism. We have to build, strengthen, and maintain the community partnerships we already have, or wanting to build, hence the reason we should be in this room, right? So we feel like we could have spent your time much more wisely by urging you and promoting that you do that wisely, because we're going to help you walk through a process for you to do that. And hopefully leaving this time much more convicted, much more on fire, much more passionate about the fact that these are things that I care about, and I'm going to actually solidify this and go do it once I leave here. So that being stated, today is going to be very eventful. You will not be in your seats the whole time. You will not be listening to me and my partner in crime up there the entire time. But I will tell you a little bit more about me. My name is Chrissy. Again. I'm an MTLD in Kansas City. I'm going into my second year. And I currently support kindergarten through 6th grade corps members in 8 of our schools in the district. And so I transitioned into this role from a corps member in 2009, where I was a Charlotte corps member. And I taught 2nd grade there. And so, you're good. Nope, go back. Thank you. So that picture that you see up there is our team. I know you can't see everyone's heads and faces, but we have a pretty fruitful team in Kansas City, and we actually got an opportunity. That's a picture of us out in front of the Brown v. Board Museum in Topeka, Kansas. We had an opportunity to visit and just kind of start to build our context for what historically it meant, to understand where education started and what that looked like in Kansas City. And we actually got an opportunity to also bring our corps members there during their induction for 2012. And we'll tell you a little bit more about our induction and how that came to fruition as we go along. But I did want to put that memo out there. That being said, there was a lot of minds, a lot of hearts that went into building this session. And granted, you only see 2 faces here today, but I want to tell you a little bit about why I'm standing here versus any of the other 9 of us in our region. I moved to Kansas City kind of on a whim. I didn't even know where it was on the map, to be honest. And then I was like, wherever I'm called to do some work with some kids, that's where I will be. And that being the case, I didn't have family in Kansas City. I didn't know anyone. I drove 6.5 hours from Charlotte and said, this is my new home. That being the case, I didn't have community ties there. I didn't know anyone. I had to build from scratch. And I've come to realize, and so has our whole region, that like we have to get this right. Like we have to really be in tune with the heartbeat and the voice of the communities in which we live, work, and serve in order to really maximize all of the human capital, but the hearts of the people who really care about the kids that we work with. And so in order to do that, this is something that's very personal and like just a part of what I do and a part of what we do as a region. And I felt it necessary, and I feel like it's been something that's definitely bubbling up in our organization across regions that people have thought about, how can I make this more a part of my work? How can I make this a necessity and not an addition? So that being the case, that is why I stand here before you today to learn with you. We are not the maximum awesomest region who does everything great. Like, that is not why we're here. We're here to learn from each other so that we all can get to a place where this is a natural part of how we operate and start to indoctrinate corps members into our regions. So I'm going to stop talking for a second, throw the mic over to Ms. Julie Baker, my teammate. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself and why she's here.
That's me. I'm up there with 2 of our other teammates from Kansas City. We have a very close-knit team, which I'm very, very lucky to say. I was a Houston 2009 corps member, and I'm now in my 2nd year as an MTLD on the team with Chrissy in Kansas City. And the reason that I am here today really has a lot to do actually with the trip that I took to Guatemala a couple years ago. I was there for a summer. I was living and teaching in Guatemala. And while I was there, I felt very much so a member of the community, not just a partner, but actually part of it. There were a lot of factors that contributed to that. I lived with a family. I rode the bus to school with the kids whom I taught. And I was learning Spanish alongside them while I was teaching them English. So there were a lot of things that really connected us there. Fast forward to today in Kansas City, and a lot of the criticisms that I hear of Teach for America there is that we are cultural tourists, hence the original title of this session, and that there's a very temporary and transient nature to us and to the work that we're doing. And a lot of folks seem to attribute that to the 2-year commitment. And they say, well, you know, if you ever want to change this, you're going to need to have a longer guaranteed time for teachers to be here. Now, I'm all about teaching beyond 2 years in Kansas City, but I actually don't buy that explanation, because I don't think having a 2-year sunset, potentially, is what really prevents us from having that partnership. If I could do it in Guatemala in 2 months, surely we could do it in Kansas City in 2 years. So what I've come to realize is that the nature of the relationship that I have in Kansas City is very different. It's transactional. I go into a classroom, I watch the teaching, I talk to some kids, I dispense some advice, and then I leave. And therein lies the extent of my relationship with my community. What this means is that kids are wary of my presence. Administrators and other veteran teachers and other community stakeholders don't see me as a partner. They see me as somebody who's only there temporarily and not really invested in the outcomes. And actually having that relationship does mean that there is some personal distance between me and the outcomes of our work. So the reason that I'm here today is that I want to be on the hook. And our hope is that you will all leave today feeling equally passionate about your own commitment to building or to maintaining those partnerships. Before we move into our session, I want to introduce our Executive Director, Michelle Sutton. She's going to talk a little bit about why Kansas City felt like, as a region, this was something so critical for us to get right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Sutton. I'm the Interim Executive Director in Kansas City. I'm also our Senior Managing Director of Teacher Leadership Development, so I get to work with everybody. It's the best 2 jobs in the organization at the same time. That's pretty cool. And I am here in this session truly just as a participant. We have so much work to do. I think that's going to come out in this session. We are deeply committed. We're willing to take risks. We also have a huge way to go. So I'm here to, partner with people at my table and with other people in here as a true participant. I do think when I reflect on where I was 3 years ago when I came into the region, both for me personally, I actually came to Kansas City in part because of the great opportunity for kids and in part because I was fleeing a pretty bad breakup. So I was like open to a new city. And I came in with a little bit of a transient mindset. And I realized pretty quickly that for us to make the change we need to, that needs to be my home, and I need to be deeply convicted and committed in a partnership, right? At a personal level. And there's going to be an option for us throughout this session to sort of take on our own personal journey and challenge. Also, as a region, when I just looked at where we were versus where we needed to be and what it was going to take, if we're not arm in arm with our kids, and if our students and their parents are not leading this movement in Kansas City, we will not get to one day. We will continue to be a group of people who come in and work really hard and make some progress, and then we will leave. So I just think, when I look at our city right now, it is truly a city divided by race and class. There is a singular street that goes down the middle of our city, and you can predict pretty accurately, based on socioeconomics and race, who lives on what side. And for our core members and our staff members, not all of them, but a majority of them live on one side. And it is easy in Kansas City to opt out of the civil rights struggle. We can go into our schools, clock in, work hard, leave, and come back to a world that feels very safe, very comfortable, very easy for us. And until we really take that on, head on, and confront it and change it, I don't think that we're going to get to where we need to go. I think we're going to do some really good work, and we're going to work really hard, and we will never make good on the promises that we've made to the kids and families in our community. So I'm excited to learn alongside everybody. I'm really just here as a participant, but happy to share any context as well.
Thanks, Michelle.